Good morning, everyone. I hope you are all well. Today, I'm going to explain working relationships or communications at the workplace. Um, Today's session is relating to chapter 4. Okay, so hopefully by the end of completing this chapter, you are able to identify the interpersonal skills that require by finance staff in the finance department or in accountant department, then hopefully you are able to identify the features of an effective finance team. So how can you be an effective as a finance team and part of the finance team, and your performance is actually helping a business to develop. Okay, so at the end of the chapter, so I will uploading number of questions, so in order to testing your knowledge and testing your understanding. Okay, so the overview of the chapter is obviously there is a coordination and communications as a finance um, staff, part of the finance team, and what is by law requirement by law, and you are responsible and accountable for. Then you need to have a strong working relationship with your colleague at the finance team. Then confidentiality is a really important. When you are working in the finance team, you are dealing with sensitive information such as bank details, address, and personal information. So these are is a really sensitive, and it must be kept confidentiality. Okay, then also, you have another point we will focus on about the conflict of interest. So the conflict of interest is really important matter, and you have to be aware of the conflict of the interest and disagreement. Okay, about some uh, such as strategic planning for the business. Okay, so first of all, coordination and communications. Um, it is about a three layer or three type of coordination and communication that is necessary and requirement at the workplace. For example, organization policies. These policies, as a finance member, you need to follow, and you need to obey the organization policy. Then collective responsibilities, also this is important, and you are responsible for specific tasks, and so you need to be aware of your responsibility and accountability and what's your duty. Then individual responsibilities, because a collective responsibility, probably you are part of the finance team. As a finance team, you are responsible for a number of the tasks, but individual responsibility, probably you are responsible for a specific task. So that's what we're calling individual responsibility at workplace in the finance team. Okay. So these are all important and necessary, and you need to be aware of at workplace. So coordination and the communication of organization policy along individual and collective responsibility. Okay, these are unimportant, and you need to be aware of it. Okay, so all three elements must be for effective implementation and application of organization policies, and for the individual, okay, for individual and the teams to operate effectively. Okay, so communication may take place in a number of different forms, including, for example, variable such as a discussion with a colleague, either face-to-face or by a telephone. So then probably it is a written communication such as a memorandum or emails or letters with your employers. Then electronic forms such as a fax, emails, and video conferences such as our video conferences, such as our video live sessions. Okay, so it is necessary to be aware of these uh, elements. They are all part of the working relationship and a communication. So communication probably through the face-to-face, communication probably through the telephone, or communication probably through the written, such as an email or fax. Okay. So obviously you need to be aware of, for example, what you say, what you write. Okay, so it is important. Sometimes saying something which you do not mean it, but you may causing a problem. So that's why it is important working relationships to not uh, be so much sensitive. Okay. Uh, the second point of this chapter is about the contractual and a legal relationship. Okay, legal relationship. So um, uh, it is necessary. It is necessary to understand what you are saying and what you know writing. So it is necessary to understand everything. So by law, you are legally it is responsible for what you're saying and what you writing. So it is for as an employee or as a finance member or finance team. So your duties to their employer as follows, because by law, actually, you sign a contract and you're working for the employer, you are working for the business. So it is necessary uh, to fulfilling your duty and your responsibility. Okay. Okay. So yeah, as a employee, your responsibility towards employer could be the following points. For example, a duty to perform their work with a reasonable care. So you need to be very careful, and you need to have your commitment to the business, to your employer. So your commitment always must be is more than 100%. So it is necessary to understand the nature of the business, and you must make all effort to make a business success. So your performance is really matter. So one of your performance actually is a relationship, either with a colleague, either with a customer, either with the suppliers. Okay. So remember in the previous chapters, we're talking about the stakeholders. So as an employee, you need to have a proper and good relationship with all different stakeholders of the organization. So who are the stakeholders of the organization? Probably is bank, supplier, creditor, customer, um, government, local authority, community. So these are a different groups of stakeholders who they have an interest in your business. Okay. So the second point, the second point, obviously, uh, second point of your responsibility or by law, or is what is your um, responsibility um, uh, for employer, for example, such as a duty to cooperate reasonably to achieve their employer's objectives. So it is important It is important, and it is your accountability to cooperate. So the cooperate based on a business target or business aims to achieve. So you need to have your commitment, always fulfilling your commitment in order to business achieving their goals and target. Okay. So for example, if you have your budgeting, so your budgeting is must be one of the business's objectives and goals to achieve. For example, always you looking for your sales, okay? Business set up a budgeting. They have a sales target. So they says, for example, they have a target to achieving sales at £100,000 this year. If you are a small business, for example. So you need to cooperate to achieving that target. Okay, so you need to cooperate to achieving this target. For example, to minimizing a cost. Okay, to minimizing cost for the activity in the business. So you need to cooperate to achieving a business to meeting their target, which is to reducing the cost. Okay, reducing cost of the business, reducing cost in relating to the activity of the business. So, okay, so you need to fulfilling these commitment. These are your duty and responsibility. Okay. The third one is a duty of obtainance. Okay. Okay. Obviously, where is everyone? Great. Thank you. Okay. So the third responsibility, so as an employee toward employer is you have to abide the law. Okay, you have to abide the law and following the law and following the structure of the business. So it is very important to obey the law and a reasonable instructions. For example, you have to following the health and safety of the a business. For example, you have to following a policy of the business. For example, you need to understand what's the business's target, what's the business aim, and what they need to achieve. And your performance is really important. So your one of your performance probably a good relationship with a customer. Okay, so a customer is always an important stakeholder in the business. Okay, an important stakeholder in the business. So by law, you are required and you are responsible and accountable for to obeying the law. Okay, law of the business. Okay, so the next point is about the duty of loyal service. And this is about the commitment. Okay, so you need to your commitment is always must be is high. Your commitment toward the business always must be high as much as possible. So you need to cooperate. You need to ensure that your colleague and your customer are satisfied with your service you are providing. So it is necessary to understand what is the business are there and what's the business's target. Because at the end of the day, if his businesses go down, it means you going down too. So if his businesses go to the administration, so it means you going to losing your job. For example, a recent example about Debenham. So when Debenham it went to administration, everyone is losing the job. It's not only the owner of the business; it is supplier losing the jobs, creditor losing the jobs, employees losing the jobs. So everyone is part of the. They are in the same boat. Okay, so any anything is happened to the business, so it will affecting on everyone. It's not individual person. So your commitment it must be very high. Your commitment is must be very high, and you have to ensure that your customer are satisfied with the service and with the product you provide them. Okay. So in opposite way, also employer has a duty to providing all necessary um, um, health and safety at workplace, making sure the environment are safe for the employees, make sure employees paying at the right rate, make sure is employees provided with a good excuse me, with a good pensions. So these are all a responsibility for the employer. So employer and employee they are connecting and they have a strong association together. So in employees must take care of the business and employer also must take care of the right of the employees in terms of payment, in terms of the health and safety, in terms of the upgrading their skills and training. Okay. If you have any question, please let me know. Raise your hand. If you have any question, please let me know or write it as a comment. Okay. So now we are moving to before I move, excuse me, you need to be aware about this law. This law is set up by the a local authority toward employer, and employer must deliver and must inform employees. For example, discrimination about gender, discrimination about the gender. Okay, this is Act 1975. For example, equality. Okay, equality. Okay, and diversity at workplace. This is another Act 1976. Diversity. Then Equal Pay Act 1970. So whether you are aware of the issue at BBC, they have equal pay between male and female. So most of the male um, presenter they receiving additional or higher payment compared to the female. So it was a huge scandals at BBC, and even some of them they took BBC to the High Court in London for equal payment. So they are fighting for equal payment, and even number of the female presenter or they are resigning from BBC and they walk out of BBC because of the Equal Pay Act. Okay, so equal pay. So these are necessary for the business to ensure there is a equal pay between male, female, between um, uh, uh, a diversity, ethnic minority, disability. So you need to be have the equal pay must be is equal no matter what is the person. Also discriminations about the disability. This is another act. It came to um, like in actually it came to the action in 1995. So also uh, discriminating disabled people at workplace, it is against the law. It is against the law. Okay, these are all legislations, and this legislation, it must be, you must be aware of this legislation. Okay, you must be aware of this legislation. Also about Rehabilitation of Offenders Act 1974. So rehabilitation of offenders. So obviously, if you having any offenders, so you need to inform your employers. You need to inform your employers. For example, when you're completing a job application, there is some question relating to past offender. Okay, if you have any fine or offending, so you need to inform your employer. Okay, so obviously you need to be aware of this legislation. So probably in the exam it asks you, says select or choose in what are these legislation you must be aware at workplace. Okay, at workplace, so you need to be aware of this legislation at workplace. Okay. So there's most people who works in accounting environment, um, irrespective of their experience and level of responsibility, normally they have access to confidential information. Okay, uh, no matter today you are starting or tomorrow, as soon as you have your access to the computer, access to the data, so it means you have access to very sensitive information. Okay, very sensitive information. For example, when I used to working for NHS, within a few weeks after I had my training and induction, so I had my access to the computer. So when I have access to the computer, because I was part of the finance team, so I was access to the payroll information. For example, I access to the employees' bank account. I was access to employees' personal information such as address, bank details, uh, NI numbers, so all necessary information. So by law, you are responsible to keeping this information confidential. You must not share it with anybody. You must not share it with anybody. Okay. Okay, so you need to be aware of the confidentiality of the information. So that's why finance or accountant are an important um, uh, people, or you have a very high level of responsibility. This kind of responsibility does not relate to your experience. Okay, does not relate to experience. So probably some sort of the information, it is under managers authorizations. um, for example, authorizing a payment. So the authorizing a payment, it is one person or probably two persons are have access to making authorizing a payment. Okay, everyone does not have uh, authority to authorizing a payment. Okay, only is line manager or staff um, who is their job is to authorize. But usually authorizing a payment, it is the manager's duty and responsibility, not every staff in the finance or accountant department. Okay. So the main point in here, it is about the confidentiality, okay? It is about the confidentiality, okay? So just let you know that I am recording this session and I will upload it later on if anyone missed the session. Okay, so the confidentiality, it is confidentiality of informations apply to every staff in the finance team. Okay, so you need to be aware of this confidentiality. Okay, so just to remember, confidentiality of information or data may relate not to only a non-disclosure of the information to outside. So sometimes is the um, disclose of information to other within the organization. Probably if you're in the finance team, so the payroll team ask you for some information. So this information probably you can share it with the other team in the organization, not outside. So you can sharing some sort of the information internally with um, some department some department in the organizations, but not outside. So there are informations that you are not allowed to disclose. Okay, not allowed to disclose, but you can disclose it with the internal department. Okay, because usually in the finance team you have a payroll, you have an accountant, you have a creditor, you have uh, ledger control. So you have these different people in the finance, within finance. So some of them sometimes they need information from payrolls regarding when it is next pay rise. For example, they ask you the information about the mileage expenses, and so this sort of the information of this you can discuss it internally within the finance team. Okay, within the finance team internally, not externally. Okay, let's move to the next one, looking at this examples of information that would normally be regarded as a confidential, that it be a confidential. So I already uploaded number of questions relating to this task. It is on the Google Classroom. So obviously you can go back to the Google Classroom later on and look at this question. Please, you must go through the questions, and you must submitting your answers. You must submitting your answer. Then I will mark it for you. Okay, I will mark it for you later on. So the question, some of the question, most of the question actually is multiple questions. So there is no any calculations in the questions. So it is mostly is relating to work in the finance, work in the finance. Okay, so the information that normally regarded as a confidential, for example, dispute between your organization and a customer or supplier dispute, legal action being taken by against your organization, such as an ex-employee bringing a claim for unfair dismissal or unfair dismissed. So, for example, if you uh, dismissed and you think it is the dismissed is based uh, on the ground of unfair, so probably sometime you're going to take employer to court. Okay. Um, payroll information such as wages, rates, or bonus. Uh, these are sensitive informations. Business plans, which may result in the closure or expansion of department or location. These are also is a sensitive information. It is a strategic planning for the future. So the usually business does not sharing any strategic planning with the outside. Only they share it with the important people at board level, at board of director. So, do you know board of director? Board of director, it means the top manager sitting at the board level. So usually in the board room, you have a independent director and dependent director. So independent director usually not employed by a business, not employed by organizations, by company. Independent, they are independent. They do not have any benefit in the company, so just they are independent outside people. Dependent director, those are who employed by company, who they are employed by company. So usually company they have a high percentage of independent director with a few dependent director. So they are a director of business. For example, you have chief executive officer. So chief executive officer is the employed by a business. It is a dependent director. For example, a chairman. For example, you have sales manager. For example, you have other managers. For example, you have a chief finance officer. Chief finance officer also they are director and they are in the boardroom, which they're making an important decision. They're making an important decision. Okay, so so any business plan which may result in the possible redundancy or additional employment of employees, these are also regarded as a confidential information. So, for example, the business have a planning to make a redundancy or reducing or cutting number of jobs. So these are a very sensitive information. These could have a huge consequences on the company, especially if you are a business listed on the stock exchange. So people buying share from your company. Such a decision for making a redundancy or cutting a job straight away will have a negative impact on the share price. Negative impact on the share price. Okay, so your share price is going to be reduced. So it will affecting on the people. So this information must not be shared with outside and kept as a confidential. Okay, so another important point regarding confidential information is relating to um, uh, a customer and suppliers, such as their bank account details, credit limited business informations, such as a level of trade activity. So these kind of information are sensitive. It will not be shared with outside. Probably the uh, trade activity, for example, the company is going to um, publishing their uh, financial statement at the end of the year. So this kind of the information are need to, well, actually they're going to publish it and disclose it later on at the end of the financial year with a different stakeholder. But the other information must be kept confidential and in the sensitive way. So not sharing with the outside. Okay, we're almost there. Okay, so we have only 13 students out of 25. Where are they? Where is the other students? Where is the other students? That's not good. We have sleeping, of course. Yeah, of course, sleeping. Sleeping. Well, We are really appreciated your engagement, making effort, waking up, um, coming to uh, session. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, and I will inform our line manager to buy you a chocolate when we come back to the college. Hopefully, April. Okay, okay. Let's go to the about the conflict of interest. Last one, conflict of interest. So, um, working relationship, it will always have some sort of the conflict of interest. Okay, and you have some sort of the disagreement at the workplace. So maintaining a good working relationship with the colleague, with the other uh, staff, it is really necessary, and you must have a balance um, at the workplace and ensure you have a good relationship. So these kind of the relationship must not crossing the line, must not crossing the line. So what I say always, I say is, well, you're spending more time at workplace with your colleague rather than spending with your family. So in the week, you're spending 35 hours at workplace with a colleague, and only when you come back, so you have a probably a few hours with the family, then you go to bed and you wake up again and you go to work. So you're spending more time at workplace rather than with the family. So that's why it is necessary to have a good relationship at workplace. Why? It is not for sake of your colleague, it is for sake of yourself. Because if you are not happy at workplace, well, you make yourself is more stressed, not happy at workplace. Probably you're going to say, oh, I'm gonna leave the job and finding another job. So to be honest with you, I had a number of jobs, and most of the jobs same place. Well, is you need to be smart, and you need to creating an environment for yourself and to ensure the relationship at workplace are actually it is working for you. So you must respecting people, you must uh, is cooperative, you must able to participate. For example, if a member of staff having a deadline and it need your help or support, so obviously it would be very nice um, uh, if you says I am willing to help, is anything I can do for you. So it would be a very nice to ensure that you are cooperative and you are willing to participate and to assisting and supporting a colleague at workplace. So this is one of the way you can reducing a conflict and disagreement at workplace. So obviously there are some of the uh, subject or matter you are well, you are allowed to discuss it, but you are not. It is better to avoid it. For example, is probably you can talking about the politic, you can talking about the football, but you cannot talking about something. It's like something is relating to the a personal. So there are things you can discuss at workplace, and there are things it is better to avoid it and not to discuss. So, especially is if relating to gender, relating to ethnicity, relating to disability. So, so always you need to providing and showing a support to colleague. You need to motivating individual as a part of the team. You always must playing as a key team player, and you must ensure that you have some sort of uh, is ability to making to improving a workplace. Okay, so probably when you go to a job interview, they will ask you these kind of questions. For example, says what can you bring to the team? Okay, says for example if you are um, it is a Friday and you have a deadline at 5 o'clock, and what do you do? how you going to, and you are unable to meeting your deadline. So what do you do? What are you going to do? So these kind of questions relating to the working relationship. So for example, uh, if you have such a deadline, it is a Friday, and your deadline is 5 o'clock. So probably you're going to asking your colleague if they are able to supporting you, helping you to ensure you are meeting the deadline. So if you have a good relationship, so it is important and showing to the colleague at workplace. Okay, so always a reliability. So reliability is really, really important. Says I am a reliable. So, for example, going to job interview, they ask you, and probably you says I am a reliable individual as a part of the team. I am able to cooperate. I am able to supporting, and my commitment always high to the to employers. And this kind of thing is really important as a finance team or accountant to be aware of at workplace. So motivation probably says I am a key player in the team to motivating individual in order to achieving our target, our business target. Okay. So in terms of disagreement and a conflict between employees, so sometimes time to time you will facing or you will experiencing such a disagreement and conflict at workplace. So this kind of disagreement at workplace, it may it may be resolved. It may be sorted out. For example, if it is a main issue, small problems between the party and directly is both parties can be politely and reasonably discussing the issue, and if they're able to having a better understanding about the issue. So always if you have some sort of a minor issue at workplace, it is better to discuss it individually at a quiet places, and make sure both of you understand, and make sure um, both parties are actually working for the business, and the business have a one target to perform and making a profit and making everyone happy and ensure they have everyone's job are safe. Okay, everyone's job are safe. So working for the business to ensure the business achieving their target. Okay. Okay, so I'm coming to the summary of the chapter. Okay, summary of the chapter. So the summary of this chapter is about coordination and communications. You must have a proper communications at the workplace. The communication probably through the telephone, through the emails, through the writing, through face to face. These are sort of the communications, and um, legal relationships. So as a employees, you have a number of a duty and responsibility toward the employer to ensure the employer actually achieving their target, including taking care of customer and supplier and creditor, and taking care of the business also. So last week I was discussing about this a business case with level 4. I'm teaching level 4 Synoptic, and we were talking about um, the understanding of the financial report. For example, we're looking at the business case of the hotel, and the hotel they had a budget and they have not achieving their target. For example, they had a sales budget and they did not achieving their sales target. They had a cost and they have not achieving their target cost. They went to overspending and their sales actually is under uh, under the figure which they targeted for. So one of the issues they say is if you uh, as an employer, if you're pushing and making other people's blaming other people's for the failure of the business, for failure to unable to achieving your sales target or costing target, so it will be it's not nice. So obviously you cannot pushing too much, and the more you pushing stuff and the more excuse they can have. Yeah. Okay, so legal relationship, it is important to understand what is employees responsibility and what they are accountable for. Also, it is important for employer to understand what is their responsibility toward employees. So as an employer, as an employer, owner of the business, so always you must not blaming individual for the failure. Always you must motivating. Okay, so the more you pushing your stuff, the more impact they will have on the business. Okay, so it will affecting on the reputation of the business. Probably if you are not able to keeping employees happy at workplace, so everyone is going to work out of the business. So again, is losing unimportant employees at workplace. It is a disaster for the business. So later on at level 3, you will study as the value of employees at workplace, because for example, if you will start working for a business, they provide you with a training, they send you to training course, they investing in you, and later on, and probably if you are unexperienced, they will help you to gaining experience, and just you walk away from the business, it will be a disaster for the business. So it is important for the employer to keep employees happy at workplace and motivating to uh, performing better. Okay. Equal opportunity legislation. Equal opportunity legislation is, for example, equal pay, ethnicity, uh, gender diversity at workplace, so and disability. These are equal opportunity legislation at workplace. So, for example, there is some company they are not willing to employ a female. Uh, Currently, I am working on my research and I am looking at number of female director at boardroom. The boardroom of the company is, or mostly is dominated by male rather than a female. So usually the boardroom only a few female at the top level of the job. So in the managerial position. So you will find a few female at the managerial level. Okay. So that's why it is the government, they insisting a law to ensure every boardroom, they have at least 25% of the board director are female. At least if they must have a 25% of the a female director. So why the government insisting this such a legislation to ensure obviously there is an equal opportunity for for the female, not only um, nominated by the male. Okay, so it must um, business providing opportunity for female while they providing opportunity for the male. Uh, Okay, so for example, is the boardroom. It is important all top manager. So not only it is important to having agenda diversity at board level. It is important to have a agenda diversity at board level. And the currently government they are insisting every board must have a 25% as a female director. 25% as a female director. Uh, in terms of the confidential information, so also confidential information is really important. Okay, it is important to understand what sort of the information it is confidential, and you must not disclose it with the outside. You must not disclose it with the outside. Okay, that's all for this chapter. And thank you very much for your participation. And I will see you at 1 o'clock. I will see you at 1 o'clock. And please go through the questions. And the question I created for you, it is quite easy. It's not difficult. It is only you go through the question, and it is multiple choice questions. So just let me show you where they are and where they are, because obviously you need to go through this question. You must go through the questions. So these are the question. Okay, from here. 1, 2, 3 is about 15, 16 questions. So it is quite easy. So says, for example, if you click on these questions, okay, and I can see from 37 students, none of them is handed in the questions. None of them is handed in the questions. So for example, if you go to the question, it says this question is relating to the financial information documentation and data security. Question number 11, it says breaking up of computer data within a business should ideally be cut out of, for example, three options. You have a three options. You must select one of these questions and submit it. And submit it. Then I will mark the question for you. Okay. So then what I will marking the question. You can see from here. This is all of you. And this is the question, so I will mark it, the question one by one later on. Okay. Okay, so these are the questions, so you need to go through the questions. Okay. So in meanwhile I am here. If you have any question, please feel free just to drop me an email. Okay, but I would like you go through these questions. Okay, go through the questions. Okay, go through the question. And I will see you at 1 o'clock. I will see you at 1 o'clock. Thank you very much.